Aren't you tired of placing divine power in places science cannot reach? God of the gaps. It means God of the gaps. In other words, there are places in the universe that science cannot explain and you say, look, there's a God here. In the past, these gaps were much larger. For example, how rain falls, how flowers bloom, how cows produce milk. Science of the time couldn't explain these. The concept of God emerged out of such necessity. But over time, science began to explain more events in the universe, and the gaps where we place God have significantly diminished. Soon these gaps will completely close. Before diving into the video, let's talk about one more cliché. Well, science explains how events occur, while religion explains why they occur. Honestly, I agree with them. I think the problem comes from the theists. As we discussed in The Red Staff, if you keep trying to prove God's existence through the Big Bang from billions of years ago or the first living organism, then they will assume they can explain the billions of events happening right now. Let me explain what I mean. Friends, the claim that science fills gaps is never a correct assertion. Science doesn't fill any gaps, as we said in the first section. Science tells us how a leaf falls, how a sperm cell becomes a baby, how plants grow. It only explains the stages through which events occur. In other words, they are gradually seeing what the events are in more detail. Look, this is a very important issue. Please move away from things around you that distract your attention and focus on the example. Imagine an atheist scientist entering a movie theater. He will observe the images on the screen and draw conclusions. But he sets a rule from the beginning and says, the conclusions and theories I will draw must be observable and testable on this two-dimensional screen, he says. He defines the area outside this two-dimensional curtain as metaphysical and considers any references made there to be unscientific. We discussed what this means in detail in the free mind section. So the movements of colorful dots on the screen are in question. For example, they see a green dot appear from time to time. Some people think that this green dot is not of the screen type. It is from a place outside the two dimensions of the screen. It is from a light source projector. Isn't that very logical? In fact, they have a lot of evidence about this that they can show on the screen, but for scientists, these are not scientific. Hey brother, is the device you are talking about something observable on the screen? No, it's outside the screen. Well then, your hypothesis isn't scientific. It's nonsense, a non-scientific superstition. Why are you filling the parts science can't explain with a projection device? Do you believe in the projection of gaps? Wait, science will explain this too. Wait, and he starts to observe and experiment carefully to explain how the green dot came about, and he notices something. He keeps seeing a blue dot move down from the top of the screen just before the green dot appears, and things start to appear in his mind. And something was beginning to appear in his mind, but in order to prove his hypothesis, he needed to see the opposite of the event. And yes, there are cases where the blue dot does not move down. Guess what happens? When the blue dot does not move downward, no green dot or anything else appears. Now everything is very clear to him. He observes this event sufficiently under the supervision of a scientific referee. Indeed, every time the blue dot moves downward, a green dot appears. And when it doesn't, no green dot appears, no exceptions. Finally, he gives a name to the result he has found and presents his scientifically proven theory. Dear friends, we found it. The green dot is created by the downward movement of a blue dot. And this event is called Chotakantas. As you can see, I have scientifically explained how the green dot forms on the screen. You no longer need to believe that it comes from a projection device outside the screen. Aren't you tired of placing divine power in places science cannot reach? It's like saying this. Aren't you tired of placing a projection device in places the scientist in the cinema hall cannot reach? Look friends, science explains the sequence of events in the universe to us. It explains what comes after what. It does this in the universe, Because there is an order in the universe, certain things consistently follow certain other things. There is no randomness. We will discuss this in detail in the order video. But it does not explain how events occur. It does not fill a gap at this point. Look, this is how the system works scientifically. After the rain falls, the plant grows. They try this repeatedly and repeatedly observe that this is the sequence of events. Due to the rule they set, they cannot comment outside the observable domain. Their theory is as follows. Rainfall affects the growth of the plant. The evidence is this. When it doesn't rain, the plant doesn't grow. Well, okay, but this could also be someone's preference. That is, someone outside the material domain who chooses to make the plant grow when it rains and not grow when it doesn't rain. Just because there is rain every time beforehand, can this incredible act be attributed to rain? The event you call plant growth involves mathematics, physics, chemistry, and biology laws actively functioning, requiring incredible consciousness. And it is not independent of the entire universe. That is, we see that the plant here and the plant in China adhere to the same laws. Or the atom of the plant here and the atom located 100 million light years away follow the same physical order. It makes much more sense to attribute this to a conscious being with knowledge encompassing the entire universe and willpower. But that being operates with a system and program. Every time it makes the plant grow after the rain falls. Or, looking in more detail, it first causes the rain to fall and then moves mineral A to the plant. Then it begins to multiply cells by dividing them and so on. It grows the plant with a program, a sequence, and science discovers this sequence. That is, with a projection light, it first lowers the blue dot and then creates the green dot with the light again. As a scientist, you discover the sequence of the projection's light reflections. In other words, you find the order in which God reflects his attributes such as knowledge, power, and will to the universe. Naming these sequences like photosynthesis, replication, helicase enzyme, etc. does not mean that you have explained how the event occurred. Therefore, the phrase God of the gaps is pure superstition. The claim that science answers the how and religion answers the why is nothing more than a populist statement. The Quran provides the most rational answers to both the how and why questions. But to a free mind. If you set limits on your mind from the start and say, I won't accept explanations beyond the veil, you'll never find the projection and its lights. Similarly, if you say, I won't accept scientific explanations that can't be observed in this three-dimensional universe, you won't find God and his attributes. For instance, the falling of a leaf, the formation of a baby from a sperm, and so on. All of these are like this. Science doesn't explain how these happen, but rather in what sequences and in what order they occur. The development of science is this. It begins to see the event in increasingly detailed ways. For instance, initially it only sees a green dot and later observes a blue dot moving downward beforehand. Then perhaps it notices an orange dot shifting between the two. Details increase gradually, but what it does, whether consciously or not, and even if it denies it, is perhaps discovering the sequence of how the projection's lights are reflected. Indeed, if we look at the frames in that cinema, the blue dot and the green dot are two separate frames, aren't they? The projection first hits the blue dot, then hits the blue dot and puts it on the screen, then hits the green square and puts it on the screen. Is that correct? Is that correct? The two frames don't affect each other. They are two separate frames. Alright, let's summarize and conclude in 2 sentences. If there is a green dot on a cinema screen, and you explain this green dot without mentioning the projection as the light source, you would not be explaining how the green dot came to be there. Likewise, anywhere in the universe, if there is an event where the laws of physics, chemistry, and biology, which we, the most intelligent beings in the universe, can only learn in 15 to 20 years, are actually applied, and if you try to explain this event in a way other than through a being with knowledge and will, you would not be explaining how the event occurred. Indeed, there is not a single place in the universe where such activity does not exist.